Hi, everybody. Let's talk about ratios today. Specifically, let's talk about ratios and how we can use them to solve proportion problems. Proportion problems are great because they help, or proportions are great because they help us solve so many word problems, right? So let's take a look at this word problem. Joey can read 15 pages in 6 minutes. How many pages will he put in his reading log if he reads for 30 minutes at the same rate? Now, you might remember that a proportion involves two separate ratios, right? So our first ratio has got to have two numbers in it, right? A ratio is a comparison of two different numbers. So as I read this, I see that here's a number here, 15, and it goes with pages, 15 pages. Here's another one in 6 minutes. And then later on, it asks us how many pages he'll put in his reading log if he reads 30. Here's a number, 30 minutes at the same rate. Now remember, a ratio means two numbers that go together, two different numbers. So in this case, it's pages per minute, right? So I'm going to make my first ratio, and I'll say it's 15, and I'm going to write pages so I can remember what it is, pages in 6 minutes. Okay, so those numbers are related. They go together. Now, I call that ratio the I know ratio. This is the one that is given to us in the word problem, right? I know this. It is given as a fact. He can read 15 pages in 6 minutes. Now, the other ratio is what we call the I wonder ratio, right? So I wonder, and this is the actual question that you're trying to answer. I wonder how many pages, right? We see it right here. How many pages? That's the question that we're trying to answer out. So I'm going to put a question mark there because that's what I'm wondering. How many pages? Oh, actually, I'm going to put this in blue so we have everything matching up here. How many pages he can read in, now what's the number that goes with that? 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Okay, and that's the I wonder ratio. These are the two things that will help you solve these problems, right? The information you need is over here in red, and the question you're trying to answer is over here in blue. All right, now let's look at some pieces and parts here, things that are important to know. If you put pages on the top of this ratio, you need to have pages on the top of this ratio. The number on the bottom and the number on the bottom need to match. They need to be the same unit. Minutes, minutes. Pages, pages. Okay, so with that, we can start to solve, right? You know that ratios are similar to fractions. The math is similar. So we're going to ask ourselves, we're going to look at the two numbers that match up that we have, right? So we have minutes on this side and minutes on this side. So we can work with these two numbers. We're going to ask ourselves, how did I turn 6 minutes into 30? And the answer is that you multiplied by 5. 30 minutes is 5 times longer than 6 minutes. And now you can say to yourself, all right, if I multiply the bottom number by 5, I need to multiply the top number by 5, right? And here's how you remember that. We want this to be a factor of 1. Okay, remember that the number on the top and the number on the bottom have to be the same. That makes 1. 5/5 is 1. And so we're multiplying by 1. Okay? So just make sure the two numbers are the same. We call it a factor of 1. So now you're ready to solve. You can ask yourself, great, 15 times 5 is what? And then you can do some side work, right? Side work is an important part of this. So you can come over here and maybe you solve this in your head, or maybe you need a pencil and paper. It depends on how big the numbers are, right? But we'll say 5 times 5 is 25, and 5 times 10 is 50. Oh, that makes 75. So it turns out that we can read 75 pages. Oops, I want the eraser here. That we can read 75 pages in 30 minutes. So Joey will be putting 75 pages in his reading log tonight. And there, we set up the proportion and we used it to know what we should multiply. Now, a lot of you will say, yes, Mr. Meyer, I could solve this in my head without setting up this proportion. But some word problems are more complicated. Some word problems have different numbers, maybe more complicated numbers with decimals or fractions in them. And setting up the proportion is a great way for you to keep your work organized, right? So if you're good at setting up proportions, you'll be able to solve much more difficult problems, okay? So remember, the I know ratio. Well, sorry, let's switch colors again here. This is a ratio, and this is a ratio, okay? These, the blue and the red, the I know and the I wonder. If you can keep those in mind, you will be good to go setting things up. If you can remember to multiply by a factor of 1, you will be even better. You'll be able to solve things. Okay, I hope this helps, and I'll see you in class.